Okay, nomenclature of acids and bases. Nomenclature means just writing the names and formulas for acids and names of the acids and bases. Okay, let's start with acids because that is something new. Bases you already know because there is no new role. It's just naming the ionic compounds. Okay, acids. There are two different type of acids you will see on your formula. First one is binary acids. Binary acids means it contain non-metal as anion. But oxo acid means it will contain oxygen. Basically, all polyatomic ions will be your anions. So both of these will have different roles. Okay, so if a binary acids which contain non-metal as anion, non-metals name as anion, they will end in IDE. Say for example, if it is chlorine, chloride, bromine, bromide, sulfur, sulfide, like that. So you are going to replace the IDE from that element anion's name and replace that with IC acid. One more time, binary means containing two different atoms. The first atom will be hydrogen and the second atom will be a non-metal from your periodic table. Just that one non-metal. If non-metal as anion, anion means ions with negative charge. So if non-metals are anions, they will end in IDE. If they are ending in IDE, you just replace IDE with IC acid, ic acid, then add the root word, then a prefix hydro. Let's see an example. HCl. So it has hydrogen at the beginning, so we can assume that is an acid and there is a non-metal here. So that is chloride. Okay. This chlorine, when it is a negative ion, it ends in IDE, it is chloride. So you are going to replace this IDE with ic acid and this chlor is a root word. So I'm going to write the root word which is chlor and add the IC acid. You are replacing IDE with the IC, then a space acid. And it need a prefix at the beginning. All binary acid need a hydro as the prefix. So the name is hydrochloric acid. Okay, another example which is H2S. I took this example because there is some exception for sulfur and phosphorus. So let's see that. So it is sulfide. So normally you will replace the root word is sulfur and you will replace ID with the sulfic acid, but that is sulfic acid. But to the pronunciation, to make it correct, the rule just changed to sulfur is a root word. So whenever you see sulfur or phosphorus, you have to write the name. The root word ends in R. Then add IC acid and add a prefix hydro. So that is hydrosulfuric acid. Same thing with the phosphorus. So those are the only two exceptions. Let's see another example which is H2Se. Okay, that is selenium. We can say the anion's name is selenite. Okay. Replace the ID with the IC acid which is selenic, then acid, add a prefix hydroselenic acid. So one more time, if it is a single element, we are replacing their anion's name with ic acid, like the root word with ic acid, then add a prefix hydro. And exceptions only for phosphorus and sulfur. This one is pH3 or you can say H3P. As for the names and formula, we can assume that is an acid. Basically, it has no acidic property. Okay, so this one, the anion is phosphorus. We know that it is phosphide. We will replace ID with IC acid, but phosphorus, remember the exception, you have to write up to R, then add IC acid, then add a prefix hydro. Okay, so only exceptions to this rule, the root word for sulfur is sulfur and phosphor is phosphor, not phosphorus. You have to write the name up to R. That is naming for binary acid. Okay, let's go back. Now we are going to see oxo acid. Oxo acid is something which contains polyatomic ion. Okay, so polyatomic ions are this polyatomic ion. You might have memorized everything. We don't need ammonium because ammonia has a positive charge, so that is not an anion. Everything else has a negative charge. So when I look at the name, you can see there are some of the polyatomic ions ends in ATE. Say for example acetate, carbonate, perchlorate, chlorate, and some of them are ends in ITE. If it is IDE, we are using the rule for binary. Okay, so let's forget about those two. Okay, then ATE, ITE, ATE, ITE. Okay, so rule, if they are ends in ATE, you just replace the last ATE with IC acid. Or if they are ends in ITE, you will replace with OUS acid. So you can remember, like, I ate something icky, or I bite something delicious. Okay, let's see an example. Okay, first one, I'm going to give you an easy example, which is H2CO3. Okay, so just start with the hydrogen. We know that as acid, and this is the polyatomic ion, and you all know the name of CO3, which is carbonate, which ends in ATE. So I'm going to write that, which is carbonate. So just replace the AT with ic acid, so the name will be carbonic acid. Very easy. Okay, let's do another one. Let's see NHNO3. The polyatomic ion in that is nitrate, ends in ATE, which is nitric acid. Okay, if it is HC2H3O2, that is acetate, so that will be acetic acid. Then as always, the phosphorus and sulfur are the exception. Let's see that. If it is H2SO4, we know that the name is sulfate, but the root word is sulfur. So you are writing sulfur, then add ic acid. So it is sulfuric acid, not sulfic acid. Same thing for phosphorus. If it is H3PO4, it is phosphate. So it is not phosphoric acid. You have to write phosphor, then add ic acid. So it is phosphoric acid. Okay, that is the rules for oxo acid. That means oxygen containing acids, which ends in ATE. Then the second type we said ends in ITE. Let's see that example. Okay, or if it is HNO2. NO2, the name is nitrite. The polyatomic ion's name is ite. So you will replace ite with OUS acid. So it will be nitrous acid. Okay, let's see another example. If it is ClO2, okay, let's write HClO2. That is chloride. Okay, so that will be chlorous acid. Okay, and here also the exceptions exceptions like sulfite, which is H2SO3. Again, remember the exceptions. You have to write up to sulfur, then add OUS acid. Okay, now practice all the, just write the formulas from the polyatomic ion sheet and practice. Okay, I'm going to show you how to go backward. That means if you have a name, how will you write the formula? Okay, let's see that. Say for example, if you have chromic acid, so you are going to see what are the last letters. It is ic acid.